What is going on, everybody? Is your guy Tyler here with Mom's Basement MMA. I am running it back with my friend Tim, the Celtic Assassin Balogh. Recall that he was on the show earlier this summer in July. We talked about his upcoming bout. At that point in time, Tim fought earlier this summer. That's definitely a talking point that we're going to have, but Tim has a very, very interesting backstory about how he got into the sport of mixed martial arts, the early trials and tribulations he encountered getting into the sport. And Tim's a story about perseverance, never giving up, and not making excuses for himself. We're not going to rehash all that. Go back, check out that episode. I'm going to link it in the description below. Now that we got that out of the way, you look crispy today, and I look crispy too, man. I got this freaking gangster shirt. Yeah, man, like all my dreams have come true since I put this shirt on this morning. It's been fantastic. And Tim, and speaking of fantastic moments, Dustin Porier knocked out Conor McGregor earlier this summer, like I said he would. And I know you weren't happy about that. I know you like Conor McGregor. I know you're a fan. You're the Celtic Assassin. You have to be. I don't. I'm not Irish. I don't have to be. So let's talk. let's talk about that for a second. That was a huge moment in the sport of mixed martial arts, and I think we would all agree. When it comes to Conor McGregor, he's a polarizing figure. You either love the guy or you really dislike him, like me. But nonetheless, we can't overlook his importance and contributions to the sport. He is probably, I don't think the sport of mixed martial arts, I'm not talking about the UFC, I'm talking about mixed martial arts. I don't think it would be where it is today had he not contributed what he contributed to the sport.
Yeah, absolutely.
With that being said, Tim, what's next for him?
You know, that's a really good question that I wish I had the answer to, especially with this whole, the run-in with the old man and the whole situation with the whole him attacking the bus type of thing. I wish I had an answer to that, to be honest with you. And especially taking that loss and definitely kind of going back to his old roots. That would have worked a long time ago, I think. But man, it's really hard. I don't know. I don't want to say he's done because but in a way I do, because like the way he's taken it, I guess. It's hard to determine, really. Like I can't speak for him, and that was not a TKO that he lost to. He got a broken leg. That's completely different. But if they call it that, that's fine. Not defending him, but it's hard, man. I wish I had a really good answer for that.
I know it's a tough one, right? Like I look at
really
it. And you hear some of the things that he said. He's like, whether he's being sincere or just being what's the right word I'm looking for? Just joking around. He's talked about making a return to 70. And I know he's fought Nate Diaz at 70 in the past. But Nate Diaz is the type of guy that's a good fight for him because they're going to keep it on the feet. It's going to be a boxing slugfest. And those are the types of fights that put Conor McGregor on the map and made him so loved.
Yeah.
I do feel, Tim, in a way, though, that he's been kind of exposed. He's been exposed, and it's very difficult for me to like see a path forward for him in the 55 or 70 division, because in the 70 division you're just fighting bigger versions of Khabib, and in his current weight class, the guy who's ranked right above him or right below him, I don't know. Either this man is either right on top of him or right below him. It's Gregor Gillespie. If you put Gregor Gillespie in a cage with Conor McGregor, it would look very similar to the Khabib fight. That fight is going to go to the ground. Gregor Gillespie would suffocate him, and the casuals would be shocked. But those of us that follow the sport very closely, and pros like you, I call you a pro. I know you're not, but you pretty much are. We wouldn't be surprised by that outcome. You would not be surprised if Gregor Gillespie won all 3 rounds 10-8. Because he would take that fight to the ground and he would suffocate Conor McGregor. The casuals who don't know who Gregor Gillespie is would be up in arms. And I'm thinking, I only see really one path forward for McGregor. And I don't know how realistic it is, but here's my theory. I think his only path forward's at 45. I really do. And even then, it's kind of a little... There are some questions because there are definitely some guys. There's some very tough matchups at 45. But I like his chances against a guy like Ortega. I like his chances against like Max, but more so than I do with some of the guys at like 55 and 70. And I'm not saying he would beat Ortega or Max. I'm not saying that. I'm just simply saying I think there are some better matchups for him stylistically in 45 compared to those other two divisions.
Yeah, for sure.
I just don't know if he can do 45. I mean, he's a pretty muscular guy. I mean,
yeah.
And you know, he's in his early 30s now, and that might be a tough cut. So,
yeah, very.
Do you think he... So we're kind of waffling a little bit. So I think you and I would both agree 45 is probably a home... That's probably the most logical place for him. I think he's done, personally. I think he's just gonna ride out. I mean, I just don't know if he's willing to like put in that work to get to 45. And I'm not trying to be critical of the man. I mean, what more does he have to prove?
Yeah, really. He's done it all, really. Right. I mean, had it been for him, how many times would have heard? I mean, I'm so glad Chael Sonnen is not in the UFC. I'm kind of glad he's done. His speed, like, anytime you would hear him do his talking, it was garbage. You knew it. You knew that he was going to lose. But with McGregor, it was fun. It was like fun to hear and all that stuff, especially when he was doing that stuff with Aldo.
Right.
All of that, the lead up to that, dude. That was the best time ever, and he's done it. It's like and you know, he can keep saying that he'll go against Nick Diaz. He'll go against one of the Diaz brothers. He can say all that all he wants. But how many times are we going to hear that? It's just like, I get tired of hearing about it. It's like, it's whatever at this point. And you know, whenever I hear about his, you know, stuff that are outside the cage, it's sad to me. But you know, it's not me,
right?
So it's like I have nothing to worry about, you know.
I'm at the point where there's really only one fight that I want to see. I do want to see the ending to the Diaz trilogy. I think that's the fight that makes sense. I want both of those guys to leave the sport after that fight, though. Nate Diaz in particular, he is. I love Nate Diaz, but he's my age, and he's still going. And it's just one of those things where if you're a heavyweight, you can go into your early 40s. If you're a bigger guy, like Glover Teixeira, he's like 41, and he's going to be fighting for a strap pretty soon. But he's massive. He's huge. And like when you are a smaller guy like Diaz is not a big dude by any stretch of the imagination. He's tall, he's skinny. And his fighting style... He's not a jiu-jitsu guy. He is not really a ground fighter despite being a black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Most of his fights have happened on the feet. He has gotten beaten to a bloody pulp, and there's only so much damage that you can take, and it's inevitable. As you age, your body starts breaking down. And, you know, and I'm just thinking of it like Nate Diaz is a father. He's made millions of dollars in this sport. He's an icon. Him and his brother both are, and it's like, I don't know what else you have to prove, man. Like, go out there, get your one last payday against McGregor, and call it a day. There's no shame in walking away. I think that's the fight you make, and then you call it.
Yeah, do that. If they, you know, but we could hear, we're hearing this like every single day. Like, we keep hearing about that matchup. It's just like, either you do it or you don't. It's ridiculous to hear this over and over and over again. It's like, I hate that.
This is one of those things that we've been asking for a long time, but, you know, it's just one of those, will it happen? Will it not happen? And for whatever, you know what, I'm kind of the opinion, it's very similar to like the John Jones to heavyweight move. That's something that we've been hearing about for a year. If they really wanted to make it happen, they'd make it happen. I think the money thing is just kind of an excuse, honestly. I just don't... I think there are other factors out there that are preventing that from happening, and I'm not even talking about the most recent drama for Jones. Jones is massive. I guarantee you, when he's not in fight camp, that guy is 260 pounds. 100%. He is fucking huge. So, like, this whole talk about, I want to bulk up and blah 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 blah, and I want to be the biggest. John Jones is massive.
Bulk up. Yeah, you're gonna bulk up in prison. That's for sure.
Yeah, like OSP, he is a light heavyweight, and he fought Ben Rothwell relatively soon at heavyweight. It was a short notice fight, but he was like, yeah, okay, cool, I'll do it. He's a light heavyweight, and he bumped up. He's not as big as John Jones. It wasn't that big of a deal because you just got him when he wasn't in camp. He was in shape, but not in like camp. He didn't have abs or anything, and he just went out there and did it. Jones could fight at heavyweight if he really wanted to, but I don't know if he really wants to, despite all the shit talking you hear. I think it's
he's not to now.
Well, yeah, that's true. Not anytime soon, anyway.
Now.
Yeah, definitely not anytime soon. Well, it's always good, Tim, chatting UFC with you, but I want to talk about you now. There's been a lot of things that have gone on with you over the course of the summer. I certainly want to get to that. Before we talk about this summer, though, I want people to know that on Saturday, October 16th, the Celtic Assassin is going to be fighting again at Halloween Havoc Ultimate Battlegrounds, and that is happening in North Carolina. South Carolina. Okay. My bad. My dear apologies to the South Carolinians. I personally have way too much teeth to be in South Carolina for longer than a few hours, and so do you. So, just joking, kind of, sort of, South Carolinians. So, Tim, I wanted to ask you about this particular matchup. You are fighting a guy named Aaron Klein, and it is for the AMI 35 belt in your promotion. How did this bout come together, and can you talk a little bit about who this guy is?
So from what I've gathered, I know one of his teammates. I can't remember his full name, but his nickname is the Grenade, and he was actually on this. He's a pro who fought the same night that I did, that night of July. So he's a training partner of his. From what I gathered, he's a very well-rounded in terms of like his martial arts experience. I think he teaches. I think he has like maybe a few, couple rank belts on him, which is great. How this came about, I mean, I was scheduled to fight. I mean, we were setting up the fight in October 16th anyway, and as I was talking to one of the guys who runs Ultimate Battlegrounds, I was like, man, because they said something about it being a title fight, and then it turned out not to be a title fight at first. And I was like, man, I wish it was. And then the promoter texted me saying, give me one moment. And then and then I get the call of it. Congratulations, it's a title fight. And I was like, awesome. I kind of swayed it into making it a title fight. Now I have to deliver on that. And, since then, we've been putting in work. And I'm aware that he's making his debut. He's talked about him wanting to get into fighting, fight up to, I think he's in his 30s or something like that. He's a well-rounded martial artist. I respect that completely. He came up with a Facebook video talking about it and, just like going through his struggles and stuff like that and how he's wanting to get in the fight and all that stuff. And then the one thing that bugs me of what he said, I don't care that you have like some kind of like leeway with promoters or something like that. In my experience, if you make your debut, you don't get to pick who you make your debut against, especially if the people that are on the top 5, the top 10, the top 15, you get who you get. So he says something about like, I looked through the rankings and then I saw his name and I was like, I'll take him for a challenge because I think he'll be a challenge. Congratulations. You did say I was a challenge. I respect that completely. However, you do not, in my opinion, people that make their debut don't do that. But it's whatever at this point. I have respect for him, but it was just that one thing that kind of bugged me. But all in all, it's a great matchup. It's a challenge for me. We've been putting in the work. We've been working our asses off for it, and I'm ready to go. I've been on weight for a month now.
Right, and you're the type of guy that you're always in shape. I know that you take a little bit of time off in between bouts, but then you're pretty much like right back at it. Me, I burrow down on these things. I do an insane amount of research, and I have a very good grasp on you as a fighter. I have a pretty good idea of what you're good at, where you really excel. your opponent, I can't say I know anything about him. Despite my best efforts, I have gone everywhere I could think of to try to find something about this guy. Because even if he is making his debut, oftentimes there are unsanctioned bouts that are out there. Maybe he was in some BJJ stuff or had some, AMI boxing fights or something like that. Nothing. I can't find anything on this guy. And I know you've done a little bit of homework on him. You probably have resources you can tap into, know people that I don't. But how do you prepare for a guy that doesn't have film on him? You know a little bit about him. You know he's a martial artist. You know he's an instructor. Okay, great. Hopefully everyone who's at your level of fighting has those credentials, because if not, you're going to leave that ring you're going to leave that octagon in a body bag if you don't know what you're doing. Even if you are an AMI, I don't care. So, Tim, how do you prepare for a guy like that? Like, it's just kind of going into the unknown.
Sharpening our tools in every aspect possible. Work the things that we may have, we've been having problems with, working those out, and of course, just working out the tools. All of my training partners have been kicking my ass to prepare for this bout. Every single day that I've been there. And even they'll be, and occasionally I'll go to Brunson's and I'll spar those guys. They all kick my ass to get ready for this whole thing. Like, it's been wonderful. Like, and have I done anything to my training partners? You're going to have to ask them. But I know for a fact I've been getting my ass kicked in the best way possible just to get ready for this whole thing. So it's just been sharpening the tools, work on any weaknesses, and improving all that type of stuff.
Aaron Klein, this is going to be the biggest fight of your fighting career. This is huge. Would mean a lot to you. It would mean a hell of a lot to you. It would mean a hell of a lot to all your fans, to all the people that support you. When we did that show earlier this summer, you single-handedly were responsible for, like, slowing my shit down. Like, my YouTube page was, like, slowed the fuck down because your people just completely crashed it. Everyone wants this for you so bad. This title shot would mean so much for you. I know how important it is for you. You told me, you're like, Tyler, I am not going pro until I have a belt around my waist. That's how important this is for me. The stakes are high. And when you're approaching a fight like this, with the stakes being what they are, does that affect you mentally at all? Or are you able, for the most part, to just kind of block that out and kind of stay focused on the task at hand?
I'm focused at the task at hand, completely 100%. I think of it as I am going to war, whether it comes out, whether, whatever the outcome is, like either it happens fast or we go to 5-round war. It doesn't matter to me. Whether he wins or I win, it doesn't matter to me. The task is at hand. I've prepared for this type of moment before. I fought for a title and I failed. I unfortunately failed. And it's been a long time since I've gotten the chance. And, I'm ready to capitalize.
Well, your game has evolved a lot since then, though, and there are lessons that you've learned in terms of, like, how to prepare, how to, like, I would venture to guess that it's a cliche saying, but you fight the fight before you even walk into the octagon. And I'm referring to the training, the preparation, the dieting, the cardio, and then the mental prep, because I'm sure there's a lot of mental prep that you have to do to kind of prepare for the situation you're about to go into. So, like, once you step in for the actual competition, it's almost kind of like, I don't know, maybe it's me talking on my ass, but it kind of seems like that's just, like, the fun part. But, like, all the other hard things that nobody sees, like, you've already paid in full what those costs are. And all those sacrifices, like the barbecues you miss out on, the family functions, the 4th of July parties, the drinking beers with your buddies, whatever. You can't do any of that stuff when you're training seriously. And I wanted to ask a little bit about, I know how important this is to you. I'm not talking about this particular bout. I'm just talking about fighting in general, because it's who you are, That's part of you. That's what you were put on this earth to do, to fight. How are you able to maintain your activity to the extent that you have when you're not getting paid for any of this stuff? Like, you might make a couple bucks from the tickets you can sell, but it's not anything to write home about. You might, like I said, there might be a couple $100 in your pocket for your ticket commissions. I know you're working a full-time gig. What does a typical week look like for you?
It's a very good question. I have hope. And like you said, I was put on this, like, whatever, if you believe in, any type of religion, if you believe in God and stuff like that, like, I believe that my Lord has put me on this earth for this reason. I, I haven't found anything else other than military type stuff that have, like, all this type of, like, war, conflict. I don't know. I'm just like, I gravitate toward that, but I don't go through it I don't go through like I love violence. If you would have asked me that when I was younger, I would have told you, fuck yeah, I love violence. I love the slaughter and all that type of stuff. But as I grown up, I've learned that, like, to be a warrior in a garden, rather be a gardener in a war type of thing. And it's and how I go, and that's how I go through it every day. It's been like a godsend to me. It's like,
Just by the inflection, the intonation, like, I don't know, there's something about you that, like, when we talk about your career, when we talk about your bouts, when we talk about, like, those Rocky Balboa moments when you're sacrificing everything to get ready for this, it's very, very, like, near and dear to you. And I want to talk. I'd be remiss to not talk about it. I have to. You put everything into this, and I think you are, like, you demand whoever you're facing do the same. Like, it's like, no, like, I'm doing this to prepare. Like, this shit isn't a joke to me. This isn't a hobby to me. This is what I do. And is it fair to say, like, you expect that same intensity from your opponent, whoever it is that you're going up there against?
absolutely, absolutely. He's been asking for it, and I'm happy to oblige, whether or not he picked me or not. I don't care.
You, I feel like you kind of got fucked over earlier this summer. And the reason why I bring up that point about, like, mentality, taking things seriously, and why it's so important to you, you had an opponent that was booked for July 17th. We talked about this fight at length in the first show that we did. His name is Tino Showout Singletary, and he didn't really show out. And I wanted to kind of pause there and let you do the talking. So, Tim, what happened with the Singletary bout, and can you walk me through just Ultimate Battleground 6, how that unfolded? There's a big story there, and I think people need to hear what that story is.
We could start at weigh-in. I waited in. I waited there for, after I did my weigh-ins, we waited about an hour or so for the face-offs, going through the face-offs, and I just noticed that I don't see my opponent anywhere at all. So, and then it was time for me to go up, and I'm the only one there, just, like, showing whatever guns I may have or not. And then, and then I just go home. And then I message one of the promoters saying, like, hey, he wasn't there and all that type of stuff. And he was like, oh, we'll get in contact with him and stuff like that. I definitely have a spiel about this fucker. But get there the next morning, and then I'm being told, like, hey,
this is the day of the fight. The next morning, the fight day.
This is the day. Yeah, this is fight day. And then I get there that morning, and then I get told, like, hey, so he's out, and I was like, fuck, man. And then so they had two people on standby for me, and whether or not those people could make it, then you could do a grappling match. I should have said no, but I did say, oh, okay, I'll do that. Luckily, like, the first guy was looking for a fight anyway, but I think he just didn't have the paperwork or something like that. There was another guy who was fighting at flyweight who was able to bulk up to 35 to fight me. He was also making his debut. Good kid there. Especially, he definitely had bigger balls than the guy I was supposed to fight for sure.
What an amazing guy. To fight on standby, like, number one, first and foremost, this fight in a majority of other promotions would have fallen through. You wouldn't have fought. They wouldn't have lined up, or they wouldn't have had standby guys like to break glass in case of emergency. You just wouldn't have fought. So the fact that they did that, or that they had some sort of contingency plan, that made me happy, because when we were talking a little bit, and we were exchanging text messages for a little bit, and you're like, Tyler, the guy just didn't show up. I'm like, God damn it! Like, the fight's over then. And then at the last minute, you're like, oh yeah, I'm fighting a guy. I'll talk to you after I fight him. And I'm like, what the fuck's going on? And then sure enough, like, you come up on top. But that is one of those situations where I have to give an equal amount of respect and props, not only to you, but to your opponent. The kid that took that fight, you're a type of guy where, like, that is a very high risk, low reward fight for both of you. I mean, this kid in particular, like, a lot of people, you're not really the type of guy I'd want to fight on, like, short notice. Like, you want to put a full camp in. You're a guy with a lot of experience under your belt, and you're a very, very tough person to, like, have to make your debut against. And especially if you're a younger fighter and you don't have a lot of experience and they're coming up against a guy like you, that's like a really tough ask. And the fact that this guy and his coaches were willing to do that, I think that's a testament to that guy. And he should get a lot of props and a lot of respect for having the balls to do that, because a lot of guys wouldn't. And in this case, so I want to talk about Singletary, because what was his deal? Like, did grandma die? Did he have Rona? Like, did his car explode? Like, what the hell happened?
That's a good question. That's a very good question. And if you're watching this, you fuck, here's what I say. And, if you've seen his record, I know you've seen his record. It's a shitty record.
Yeah.
And maybe it's done by him or whatever the case may be. I mean, I don't care if you put me against someone with a good record, bad record, any type of situation, your experience or whatever. In this guy's case, you shouldn't fight. You're out. You're totally out, in my opinion. And if you can't keep up with the promoters and make it to weigh-ins and then put in the work, like, shame on you. Shame on you for trying to earn the title of cage fighter, mixed martial artist, MMA fighter. You lost that title. You lost that privilege, and you should stay away from it. That's how I feel about him. That's how I feel about anybody who does this type of shit with me. Especially, like, when I was coming up, I've had two people in 2016. That was in August. I was supposed to make my debut in August of 2016. That didn't happen. A week. I had to be at 125 in 2 weeks because I was somebody's replacement. The day of weigh-in, the guy doesn't show up, and then I'm told I'm put in a grappling match with somebody. That guy doesn't show up like 5 minutes prior to the show. So then I make my debut in 2017 of January, and then all smooth sailing from there. And then I've had some occasions where people have backed out prior. You don't give. I don't know.
It's one thing. I would say this, though, knowing you, though, I feel like I have a really good grasp on who you are, not only as a fighter, but more importantly as a person. And let's just say hypothetically that, I don't know, you and I were in some alternate universe, you and I were going to fight. If I got hurt in camp and I hit you up and I was like, Tim, man, like, I blew out my knee, I'm fucking hurt, I'm sorry, I can't make it. That wouldn't piss you off. You might be disappointed, but you wouldn't be mad at me because you'd be like, okay, shit happens. But if I blow off the weigh-in and just don't show up, or say my dog died like 2 seconds before we're supposed to fight, it's not so much about the competition. It's just like, no, you're disrespecting me as some. I don't know what the right word is. It's something. It's beyond fighting at that point. Now it just got personal.
Right. It's disrespectful. Yeah, you're right. It's disrespectful. It's fucking stupid. You have to let A, the promotion, and B, your opponent. It's not that difficult. Grow a pair of fucking balls. It's not that hard.
Right. And it's one of those things where it's like nobody's making you do this. Like nobody put a gun to that kid's head and said like you have to fight. You have to fight Tim Balogh. No one said that. Like there was a paper that slid across the desk or was emailed to him, and he signed it. He signed it. He knew what he was getting into, and then he had a change of heart. Like, and for him to just not show up and compete, it's not so much of the no-show that. Well, it's not that the fight didn't happen is what bothers me. It's the way it was, the manner in which it happened. You just got ghosted, basically. Yeah. And I hope
that's essentially what it was.
I hope that your promotion has a some sort of policy in place to deal with people like that. I hope he's blacklisted. I hope he never had. Yeah. I hope he could never fight in that promotion ever again.
Yeah, absolutely. They definitely have. You lost your title of becoming, or you lost the title of being a martial artist and an MMA fighter, cage fighter, whatever you want to call yourself. You could call yourself a fucking, I don't know. Just call yourself other than martial artist, cage fighter, MMA fighter. You lost that privilege, buddy.
Yeah.
That's absolutely what you did.
Absolutely. And John Norris was the guy that you fought. The bout comes together at the last minute. There's like no prep. You probably didn't even have time to know anything about this guy other than his name. Mm-hmm. And if anything, he probably has a little bit more of an advantage because he's on standby and could probably do a little bit of homework on you. I'm sure he did. He probably did homework on you and Singletary to an extent. There's a
funny story with that.
Well, go ahead. Tell me the funny story.
So, yeah. So, the name's called, getting ready, and we're waiting there and all that stuff. And then our bout is about to begin. We had to wait for like maybe an hour because the last bout ended in like somebody got their ribs hurt by their opponent. So they had to, take them out with an ambulance, and they had to bring in another ambulance in. So we were waiting there for like a couple, like maybe an hour and a half or something like that. And then our bout starts, and he's walking in. I'm just cool. I'm going through the game plan in my head. And I actually did pull a Rose. I actually went like, I am the best. I am the best. Like I'm talking to myself. I'm just like, I am the best. I am the best and all that type of stuff, and it just went smooth sailing. He was trying to take my head off. Oh yeah. The funny thing is, so his coach was actually an old promoter of a promotion called Battle in the South, for Wilmington, North Carolina. He told his fighter, don't go to the ground with him. And he doesn't do it. Even though he took me down, I was, our bout is going on. Like, he's trying to knock my head off, that's for sure. So, and then we get into a situation. For some reason in my head, I thought I took him down, but obviously looking back at the footage, he took me down. Able to, and he was trying to wail on me, obviously. And then I was, like, spider monkeying my way out. At one point, I was able to, I was able to get him into my guard. He was slamming me. I've been slammed before. So I was like, I'm going for a ride. Then I go and spider monkey my way. I grab the nearest arm and I start wrenching. And then after that, it was history there. That was probably after, this is like, it was probably the most happiest moment, next to my debut because it's been so long.
Well, and all the emotions going and the build up, right? Because there's a bunch of emotions. Like fighting is emotional. Anytime like you compete against somebody, it's like an emotional experience. There's like, I can only imagine. I'm like the worst person to ask, but it's like I'm going to guess there's a full spectrum of emotions that happen. You get amped up, you get jacked. There's nerves. You probably feel like barfing. I bet there's just all kinds of crazy shit that people feel. And then the fight happens. It goes your way. And, when you look back on the other tough fights that you've had, it was like, I think it was kind of a validating fight for you because it's like, okay, no matter what people throw at me, I'm going to find a way to get shit done. Doesn't matter if my opponent doesn't show up. Doesn't matter who they throw in here at the last minute. I am good enough, and my journey doesn't stop here. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm good enough to do this. And that probably helped validate you because there are a lot of fights that happen. But I won't say a lot of fights, but at the beginning of your AMI career, we were on a roll for a little bit. There's a lot of things that were going down. We covered all that in the prior episode, but we were able to get back in the green after this fight, and I know how much that meant to you.
Yeah, it was really great.
Did you so in the aftermath of the fight, did you talk to that guy at all? Like, did your opponent?
I did. I told him, you have some fucking balls. Like, you're a man. You stepped up, and he had an opponent drop out as well. So
Sure.
it worked naturally. So, I was like, awesome, man. It was great. I will say, like, on his Instagram, like I posted, saying something, about my thing, and then he commented on it saying like awesome fight, man, like great job. And I commented back. I go on his Instagram, and his whole spiel is like, man, I took a fight on short notice. I have stolen bombs on him. Well, I wouldn't call them bombs. They hurt, but I wouldn't call them bombs. I've been hurt by heavyweights harder than that.
Sure.
So he can call it what he wants.
Sure. Well, hey, it's always good to see that sort of like mutual respect, and that kid certainly deserves it, because you're not the type of guy that I would want my fighter to be making his AMI debut against. That has bad news written all over it. The fact that his coach and that fighter took it, a testament to them. Hey, it didn't go their way, but you can't help but appreciate the YOLO mentality. They did it, didn't work their way, but they should get the props nonetheless. Tim, before I let you go, I wanted to ask you a little bit about, I want to go kind of back to the Klein fight. I want you to have the opportunity to tell people, like, what would this victory and this belt mean to you?
It would mean a lot. I try not to think. I'm not really thinking about it right now because of the task at hand. But if hypothetically, anyway, or I guess that's the way to put it. In a hypothetical way, it would be awesome to bring back something home for people and to show. And this is just like one step closer to what I'm trying to do here. Like, if Dana White or Scott Coker would be listening to this, you're going to be bringing a fighter who, not only that you'll be crowning the next person who wins the 35 belt, you'll be crowning the first person on the autism spectrum in history, in the sports history, in all of the history, maybe, to win a title that has this type of disorder. And it's not even a disorder anymore. It's a power that you need to really look at. It's just something for the parents. I know the parents need this. The kids need this. And I was put on this earth to do that.
So, I get, I don't know if you could tell. I don't know if you can see the hair on my arms. Oh, it's probably bad because of, all the tattoos and stuff. But
I kind of see it, yeah.
Yeah, the hair on my arms kind of just stood up a little bit when you said that. Tim, man, you're an inspiration, and you know what? Regardless of the outcome, regardless of how the fight goes, let's just say, apocalypse happens and the whole world ends, and, we don't ever live to see October 16th. You've accomplished more in the limited amount of time that you've set foot in the octagon and have competed. You have accomplished more at this early stage in your career than most people would ever dream of. I'm sure you've been told time and time again, Tim, you can't do that. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't do this. You have probably been excluded and been treated differently. I know you're 26 years old. You're a relatively young guy, but you're old enough to see the difference between how kids on that spectrum are treated today compared to how they were treated when you were brought up. The times have changed now, and I hope it's for the better, but the fight would mean a lot, not only for your family, but that belt would mean so much to just anybody, whether you're on the spectrum or not, just anybody that has a goal that wants to do something, despite the odds. You're one of those stories where it's like, if you put in the work, if you put in the dedication, anything's possible, and it truly is. And I wanted to give you an opportunity, Tim, to shout out who needs shouting out, whether it be your sponsors, your gym, your friends, anything like that. Let's hear it.
Yes, I would like to thank my my partners, my family, my friends that understand what I'm trying to do here. They understand my purpose in in my life. You know, I picked my name is the reason for my name is because of what I do. I pull shit off. Assassins tend to do that. Maybe I don't have a hidden blade on me, but I tend to do things the assassin way. Nothing is true. Everything is permitted. I live by that. Even though it's a silly video game quote, that kind of means something to me. It's a great, a shout out to like a Retro Meadery, who's actually a training partner, is like a co-owner in, who we should be doing some shit soon, hopefully. DB's Gun and Ammo, Dane Britt, who is a local legend in Wilmington, North Carolina, who's a gun owner, and he's a sponsorship on my short since my third fight or my fourth fight. Who's an old bandmate of my brother's. And he was able to give me some sponsorship money. It wasn't a lot, but it didn't matter. It was like enough to go by, and I'm very grateful for that. And I hope to do some shit with him. We definitely need to do some tactical shooting. I need to get back into that. But just and to thank you for giving me a voice. A lot of people would probably not give me that. And yes, I was, especially during my time, we were definitely set aside as just nobody. But anytime that they would say stuff that I couldn't do, I can tell you the number of times I've broken through those barriers a lot. I've earned the titles that I've earned. I've earned state champion in track and field. I've earned JROTC Raider. I've earned JROTC Battalion Commander. I've earned mixed martial artist. I've earned MMA fighter. I've earned the titles that I was given, and I don't take them lightly. It's weird saying all that stuff, but I'm aware of what I've accomplished, but I don't rub it in people's faces. I don't go about it with an ego. And it's just, I've been trying to be the warrior in the garden my whole life, and it's been such a blessing.
Absolutely, man. And it's always a blessing just talking to you and being in your presence. Everyone, make sure you follow my guy, Tim Balogh. The support to him means a lot, and he's really on the cusp of doing some really special things. And he's at that point in his career where if he can build up a bigger following, if you like his stuff, whether you can contribute to his camps or not, that's okay. But if you can at least follow and like share his stories, and he's trying to sell tickets, like any sort of support that you could provide, it means a lot, and it can make a big difference to him as he's trying to get to that next stage in his career, which he will be soon. So get on the train now while you still can, because it's only going to be a matter of time before he blows up. Tim, the Celtic Assassin Balogh, we will be running it back after you win, brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.